breaking down kay namang yung structure basta gid na involvement sa structure. Okay, so let's start with the carbonyl compounds. I'll start with the introduction on the chemistry of carbonyl compounds. So, talking about carbonyl compounds, these are actually any compounds containing a carbon double bonded with an oxygen. You have encountered this many times, diba? During the introduction to organic chemistry, I have mentioned all about carbonyl containing functional group. You have a compound containing a carbon double bonded to oxygen. That is the carbonyl. Okay. When you say carbonyl, carbon, we are referring to this carbon. Okay. Pag sinabing carbonyl, the whole. Okay. Structure carbon double bonded to oxygen. Okay. Now, for most of the biological molecules, pag sinabing biological molecules, mga organic molecules that are found in our biological system, most of them contains carbonyl groups. Okay, so usually carbonyl compounds ang made up sa atuang biological system. That is why, with that idea, we can thought no nga ang chemistry of living organism is actually the chemical reaction, the chemistry also of carbonyl compounds. And there are many different kinds of carbonyl compounds, but we will just discuss the few common types of carbonyl compounds. So we have aldehydes, ketones, okay, carboxylic acids. Okay, you already know the functional groups for each compounds ha. Pag carboxylic acid, alam niyo na. Okay, and the derivatives of carboxylic acid. So that includes the acid halide, the amide, ester, and acid anhydride. Again, that for functional groups or compounds are derivatives of carboxylic acid. When you say derivatives, they can be synthesized, they can be derived from carboxylic acid. Okay, nabuo sila from carboxylic acid. Now, I want you to observe the common parts of the following carbonyl compounds. Di ba, meron silang common. Okay? Then meron din silang differences. Okay? Now, all of the carbonyl compounds presented in this slide, as you can see, they contain acyl group. Pag sinabi namang acyl group, it's the R C double bond O. Okay? Yan yung acyl. Okay? Acyl group. And lahat, di ba? Lahat sila may acyl group. Yan yung common sa kanila. Okay? And yung acyl group, particularly the acyl carbon, itong acyl carbon is further bonded to another substituent. Doon sila nagkakaiba sa another substituent. Okay? Kung saan naka-bond directly yung acyl group. Okay? Now, talking about the R groups, ito yung mga R groups. Okay? Yung mga R groups of the acyl group or the R part, itong mga R part ng mga acyl group, okay, that is any organic structure. Pag sinabing any organic structure, ibig sabihin, ang atom that is directly attached to this carbonyl carbon, okay, is another carbon. Okay? Kasi pag R group, organic, we are talking about a carbon-containing compound. So automatic, that is a carbon atom directly attached to that. So pwede na siya any alkyl group, so open chain, or pwede a cyclic group, cycloalkyl group, or pwedeng aryl group, aromatic ring removed with one hydrogen. Okay? Now, the other substituent kung saan sila nagkakaiba, okay, yung other substituent kung saan yung acyl group is directly bonded to could be a hydrogen. Sulat ko ha. It could be a hydrogen. Okay. Pwede din carbon. Okay. Pwede din oxygen, okay? Pwedeng halogen, okay? Or a nitrogen. Okay? So again, yung other substituent to which yung carbonyl compounds nagkakaiba is pwedeng bonded directly to hydrogen, carbon, any halogen, pwedeng chlorine, bromine, oxygen, nitrogen. Okay? Now, in organic chemistry, very useful nga atong i-classify ang mga carbonyl compounds into two categories. Okay? Now, kani nga mga categories is based on the kind of chemical reaction that they undergo. So, pwede nato ni i-classify, okay, ang mga carbonyl compounds into two. Particularly, ang magkauban ani si aldehyde ug ketone, then kauban ning isa ni kagrupo ang carboxylic acid and its derivatives. Naggrupo ni sila, na-categorize sila based on their chemical reaction, similarities of chemical reaction that they undergo. Okay? Now, in general ha, to give you an idea, in general, ang mga carbonyl compounds during chemical reaction, they undergo nucleophilic, okay, type of reaction. So, nucleophilic this time. Okay? Ang type of reaction that they undergo. Meaning to say, this time, nucleophile will attack the carbonyl compound. Particularly, anong part ng carbonyl compound ang ang actively nga gina-target nila? It is the carbonyl carbon. Okay? Again, this time, unlike alkene, unlike benzene that undergo electrophilic type of reaction, for carbonyl compounds naman, they undergo nucleophilic type of reaction, meaning to say, a nucleophile will attack the carbonyl compound. Particularly, anong part ng carbonyl compound? The carbonyl carbon. Okay? Bakit siya yung target ng nucleophile in most cases? It is because yung carbon here acts as electrophile. Okay, it acts as electrophile. So for polar reaction to proceed, an electrophile will react to a nucleophile. Now, okay, ang tanong, bakit yung carbonyl carbon acts as electrophile? Bakit in general ang carbonyl compounds, they undergo nucleophilic type of reaction? Okay, let's try to observe this bonding sa acyl group, or particularly sa carbonyl part. Okay, tingnan yung carbon. Di ba yung carbon here is directly, it is doubly bonded yun siya, doubly bonded to an electronegative oxygen atom. Pag sinabing electronegative, yung pool of electrons, okay, magkakaroon dito ng polarity pattern. Kasi yung pool of electrons, obviously, going towards oxygen. That makes oxygen partially negative. And what happens to the carbon? It will become electron poor. Electron poor, as it now carries partially positive charge. That explains its electrophilic characteristic. That is why very good substrate na siya for nucleophilic attack. Kasi 'di ba ang definition natin sa electrophile, electron poor. Okay? Electron poor siya, kaya electron loving siya. Mangita siya og atom nga rich of electrons. Okay? Electrons, mangita siya og electrons, kaya electrophile siya. Okay? And nagkataon nucleophile. Okay, during reaction, diba, nucleophile is electron-rich. Okay, so that's the reason bakit this time ang carbonyl compounds nucleophilic type of reaction ang ilahang gina-undergo. Okay, and this is also the reason bakit considered electrophile ang carbonyl carbon. Now, there are carbonyl compounds that makes this carbonyl carbon much more electron poor. Okay, naapoy cases nga mas ma-electron poor ang carbonyl carbon dere, making it a very good substrate for nucleophile. Paano? if another electronegative atom na pod ang bind no directly to this part, okay, that could further pull electrons from the carbonyl carbon. That increases the electrophilic characteristic again ng carbonyl carbon. Gipull na sa taas, na anay nagpull sa iyang electrons ng carbonyl carbon, naapog mo pull diri samot nga ma-electron poor ang carbonyl carbon in that case. Okay? Now, naabatay mga electronegative atom nga directly bonded to this part, talking about carbonyl compounds. If you try to go back, yes, di ba? Ay na dire. Okay? Okay. We actually have the carboxylic acid. If you try to check the carboxylic acid nga structure, ang yahang directly attached nga electronegative atom diri is oxygen, di ba? OH ang naa diri. So directly bonded just to oxygen. Oxygen is an electronegative atom. And the rest of the derivatives of carboxylic acid, okay, they also contain electronegative atom on this part. Now, yung mga electronegative atom bonded here, okay, they particularly acts as living groups in general. Okay, ang tawag sa kanila basta electronegative atom ang naka-attach dira nga part sa acyl group. Okay, living groups ang tawag sa Bisaya pa, di ba? Kung live, anamiya. Okay, mamiya. So living groups gapamiya nga grupo. So meaning to say, kaning nga mga living groups, okay, electronegative atom like oxygen, halogen, di ba pag X halogen, and nitrogen, ibig sabihin, kaning nga mga grupo, they are stable on their own. Okay, okay ra sa ilang nga sila ra on their own. Okay, it is because of their electronegativity property. Diba? They are electronegative species. Therefore, they can stabilize a negative charge on their own. Thus, they prefer to hold on their electrons rather than donate them to that electron poor nga carbonyl carbon. Mupul gid siya, electronegative man siya, mupul gid siya og electrons. Di ba pag sinabing electronegativity, the property to attract electrons, hindi man yan the property to donate. Mu-attract man gyud siya og electrons, mu-pull man gyud siya og electrons. Okay? So capable ang mga electronegative atom to stabilize a negative charge. That makes them a very good living groups. Dali ra kay sila sipaon ba during chemical reaction, dali ra kay sila sipaon, then okay ra pud sa ilaha. Removable ra pud sila. Living groups man sila. Okay, that is why for carboxylic acids and its derivatives, they are categorized as one, no? Because they contain a specific living group. Okay, so they are grouped as one, and take note, the type of reaction, nucleophilic reaction that they undergo is substitution reaction, nucleophilic substitution reaction. Okay, so ito yun. Diba, ito yun sila. Sa carboxylic acid, directly bonded with oxygen, directly bonded si acyl halide, directly bonded with a halogen. Halogen is electronegative. Nitrogen also, and balik-balik, oxygen. Okay? So, highly electronegative na sila. So, dali ra na sila ma-leave, no? Sa structure, dali ra kay sila ma-displace. Removable lang sila. Okay, so again, in general, they undergo substitution type of reaction. So na namin idea unsay meaning sa substitution type of reaction. Diba kung moingon tag substitution nga reaction, what happens here, say for example, this is any carbonyl compounds, okay, containing a living group. So example, pwede na siya carboxylic acid, amide, ester, whatsoever. So during nucleophilic attack, so you have a nucleophile, ang mahitabo, kung mo-attack ang nucleophile, what will happen is this will easily be displaced. The living group, okay, will be easily displaced, mupuli dira si nucleophile siyang position. Okay? Kasi nga living group, dali raman pud siya mohawa, removable man siya, makastabilize man siya og negative charge, okay ra sa iyaha. Mo leave. Okay? Mupuli dayon ang nucleophile. So substitution, nag-replace, 'di ba? Kung mag-sub, okay, sub-replace. Okay? Mag-replace ka sa spot, okay, ng something. So that happens, that is the general reaction ng nucleophilic substitution reaction ng carbonyl compounds. Okay. Now for ketones and aldehydes, okay, in the case of ketones and aldehydes, yes, they also contain, diba? They also contain carbonyl group. Meron din silang carbonyl group. Okay? Or particularly acyl group. But their chemistry, their chemical reaction this time is distinctly different, okay, from that of the previous nga grupo ng carbonyl compounds. Why? It is because this time, they do not contain living groups. Ang naa sa ilaha, ang naka-attach, di ba, is hydrogen for aldehyde. For ketone, carbon. Pag R group, carbon din na siya, ha? So hydrogen and carbon, these are not electronegative atom based on your knowledge, diba? Hydrogen is not electronegative. Carbon is also not electronegative. They are poor living groups, in short. Pag sinabing poor living groups, opposite, they are not stable on their own. Okay? They cannot stabilize a negative charge. That's why magpabilin gyud sila dira. Bala pag i-attack pa sila sa nucleophile. That is why hindi substitution yung reaction that they undergo. Wala sila nabilong ato nga grupo nila carboxylic acid. So lahi pud ilahang type of chemical reaction, lahi sila nga category. So during the reaction specifically, let's say for example na nucleophile mo attack sa carbonyl carbon, na mo attack, what will happen here is whenever this nucleophile attacks, for instance, this is a ketone, di ba? RCOR, ang gihatag sa example is a ketone. So example, a nucleophile attacks a ketone. Now this incoming nucleophile, it will push, no, the electrons in this pi bond, okay, into the oxygen, okay, into the oxygen atom. So meaning, pag atake sa nucleophile, ma-break yun ang pi bond. Okay? This is applicable for ketones and aldehydes. Alright? Kasi nga, again, dili man easily removable. So, ang mahitabo, ma-break yun ang pi bond. And recall, pi bond are weaker bonds, no? Compared to sigma bond. So, ma-break ang pi bond in order to form a new bond. Okay? Para pasok si nucleophile, mo attach si nucleophile. Again, ang mahitabo for ketone or aldehyde sa general reaction, upon the attack of nucleophile, it will simply push the electrons from this pi bond into the oxygen. So, ma-break ang pi bond. Okay? Then what will happen to the oxygen? Ma-unstabilize siya, kay isa na lang man naka-bond. Remember, ang most stable number of bonds ng oxygen is dalawa dapat. Okay? Therefore, upon forming here a new bond, what will happen in the reaction? That oxygen will try to stabilize itself by accepting or picking up a proton in a reaction. So usually, ang reaction man diri involves a proton, involves an acid catalyst, so it will just pick up the hydrogen, okay, the proton from the reaction to make it stabilize. So, na-stabilize na yung oxygen, di ba? Ang oxygen, dalawa yung dapat na stable number of bonds ng oxygen. So, yun lang yung nangyari for aldehydes and ketones. And it is not substitution here. What happens here is addition reaction. Basta na involvement sa breaking of bonds, pi bond, kapag na-break yung pi bond to form a new bond, okay, for that incoming nucleophile, then that is addition reaction. Okay, addition reaction. It's not substitution at all. Okay, it is not substitution because we are not replacing here. We are adding We are adding a new bond. We are forming a new bond here. So this is addition reaction. So this is the general reaction for aldehydes and ketones, nucleophilic addition reaction. So again, we have two categories ng carbonyl compounds based on their chemical reaction. We have nucleophilic substitution reaction for carboxylic acid and its derivatives. And we have nucleophilic addition reaction for aldehydes and ketones. So you know already how to rationalize bakit addition for aldehyde and ketones, bakit substitution naman doon sa ibang carbonyl compounds. Okay, so before we proceed directly to the chemical reaction, specific na mga chemical reaction for aldehyde and ketone, we have to learn first the nomenclature, okay, of carbonyl compounds, starting with aldehydes. Okay, now for naming, okay, sa naming of nomenclature of any organic compounds, again the first step is always ayan. So this is points to remember na dili na ko maghatag og step 1, step 2. You know already the basic steps in naming. This is the indicators lang or mga points nga dapat ninyo i-remember in naming aldehyde. Again we're talking about aldehyde. So before ka mag-name og aldehyde, make sure nga aldehyde yun na imong gi-name nga compound. Saan pagkabalo nga aldehyde na siya, it contains a carbonyl group, then a terminal hydrogen. Okay? So take note, terminal hydrogen. Always yun na siya sa tumoy. Wala kay makita nga aldehyde nga nasa tunga. Okay? Nasa ikaduha nga carbon, sa ikatulo nga carbon. Nagyod na sila sa terminal part because of the presence of hydrogen. Remember, ang most stable number of bonds ng hydrogen is only 1. So di na ka pwede makasumpay dire og any other atoms. Basta hydrogen na gani ang tumoy, mo na ang last. Okay? Kay isa ra gyud na ang bond ng hydrogen, mo na iyang stable number of bonds. Okay? So make sure aldehyde ang inyong name, giname nga compound. Now, first step is of course to find the parent chain. Okay? So yung parent chain this time, since we're talking about aldehydes, the parent chain must contain the functional group COH, okay, or CHO. A carbon double bond to oxygen with a terminal hydrogen. Okay? And then, take note, after you find the longest carbon chain containing the aldehyde, automatic, yung aldehyde carbon, asa ang aldehyde carbon? Kani siya. Okay? Kanang carbon double bonded to oxygen mo na siya. Ang aldehyde carbon. That is always numbered as carbon 1. Okay? So no problem na. Parent chain, longest chain, pag numbering, kana permi ang number 1. Balag pa na yung mga substituents sa inigtumoy niya, na ay double bond, unsa pa, other nga mga functional group, higher functional group pa rin yung aldehyde. Kasi meron ng double bond towards an electronegative atom. So siya yung carbon 1. Then continue ka. After that, kung pila ka buok ang carbon, you can now derive the corresponding alkane name. Okay? So say for example, 5 ang pinakataas nga chain niya, so pentane. From that, since it is an aldehyde, you replace the ending E into al. This is to indicate nga aldehyde ang imuhang giname nga compound. Okay? So say for example, 1, 2, 3, I think na may example sa ubos. Okay, padayon lang nato. Okay, again kapag 5 ka-carbon, so pentane ang alkane name. But again, we're talking about aldehyde. Aldehyde man imong nakita nga functional group, then change the ending E into al. So say for example, okay, the first nga structure, isa ra man na ka-carbon. This is an aldehyde, no? Aldehyde gyapon na kay carbon, double bond oxygen, then terminal, na din siya terminal hydrogen. That is an aldehyde. So, isa raman ka carbon, tell me what is the prefix kapag isa lang ka carbon? Is it meth, eth, but, prop, hex, hept? Oh, very good, meth. Okay? 'Di ba methane? So supposedly the alkane name kapag isa lang is methane. From methane, you change the ending E. Okay, 'di ba nag-end man nag-E ang methane. Change the ending E to al, that becomes methanol to make it an aldehyde. Okay? Next, carbon 1 is siya carbon 2. So you have two carbons. Yung alkane, corresponding alkane name is ethane. Then this is an aldehyde man. So change the ending E to al. So ethanol. Okay, that becomes an ethanol. Now, I want you to uh, be familiar also with the other, with the common names ng methanol o ethanol kasi hindi siya usually used ang methanol nga term, ang ethanol nga term. Methanol, ang common na ginatawag sa iya is formaldehyde. This is the common name ng methanol. Systematic name na ang methanol. Common name kanang usually ginagamit gyud. Okay, kung ma-encounter ni siya compound formaldehyde. Ethanol naman, ito yung acetaldehyde para lang ma-aware mo ba sa iyang common name. So you know already the structure kung maka-encounter formaldehyde, ako man na siya CO okay? Next, you have this structure 1 2 3 4 5. So pentane iyang corresponding alkane name. From pentane, change the ending E to alpentanal. Okay? Ma'am, nganong wala na ka indicate sa position asa makita ang aldehyde. Di ba ingon ka ma'am last time kung functional group, open chain, you have to indicate asa makita. Okay. For aldehyde, special case ni kay aldehyde. Di ba I told you nga ang aldehyde is always a terminal functional group. Take note. Aldehyde is always a functional group. Always yun siya makita sa sigtomoy, sa structure. Therefore, you don't need to indicate the position. Asa makita ang asa makita ang aldehyde, kung moingon kag pentanal, kay automatic na gina sa tumoy. Okay? Ang pinakauna nga carbon siya ang nag-carry sa aldehyde group. Okay? So, question. How many do you think is the maximum number of aldehyde in a compound? Kung always siya nasa terminal, how many is the maximum number of aldehyde functional group in a compound? Very good. 2. Kaya di ba kung may kag molecule, kung may kag, di ba kung mangita ka og parent chain, mangita kag parent chain, naramang yun na siya sa, duha ramang yun ang tumoy. Either left or right, top or bottom. So duha ra na iyang terminal side sa parent chain. That is why, for a compound, for an aldehyde compound na open chain, again, open chain ni siya ha, kanang straight chain, kanang dili cyclic. Duha ra gyud ang maximum number of aldehyde group. Okay? Do we need to identify the location kung maximum na ma'am, duha na? Dili gihapon. Okay? Dili gihapon. Kaya automatic, kung may kag-dial, diba? Kung magamit na ka og prefix dial, meaning duha ka aldehyde in that open chain. Meaning to say, ang isa na sa picas, ang isa ka aldehyde na pud sa picas nga terminal part. Okay, so mao na siya ang pasabot sa dial. Okay? Next. For this compound, pentanal din siya, 3, 4, 5. Pentanal din siya, but meron siyang substituent nasa carbon 2. So you name it, 2, chloro, diretso, pentanal. So ano lang, 2, chloro, pentanal. Next. So this is also, all of these are aldehyde ha. By the way, in naming, dili ko magsulti nga, okay, aldehyde na siya. You name that aldehyde. So it is your responsibility already to identify kung aldehyde ba na imong giname. So be careful good in naming. Dili ka musunggab diretso in naming. You have to identify first, uy, alkene man ni. Uy, ketone man ni. Ay hadid ka magamit sa points to remember in naming compounds. Okay, so this is an aldehyde 1, 2, 3, 4. So butanal ang parent. So automatic, di na lagi ka ha, di na ka mag-indicate asa ang aldehyde, kaya automatic na siya sa terminal part ng molecule. Na ay substituent na sa carbon 3, so 3-methyl butanal. Okay, next. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. Alam ma'am, na ay OH, so alcohol, lugar ni siya og aldehyde. Again, aldehyde will be a priority functional group. So automatic, the whole structure is an aldehyde. Gamitan na siya nga points, kani nga mga points in naming an aldehyde. So what will happen to OH? That becomes a substituent. Okay? Basta makakita kag carbonyl containing molecule, then na ay OH, okay, na ay benzene ring, those parts will become a substituent. Ang OH, that is named as hydroxy. Okay? Kung substituent siya. That is hydroxy. So, asa makita ang hydroxy? 4. Hydroxy, then the parent name is butanal. Okay, next. 2, 3, 4. Butanal pa rin. 4-hydroxy. But meron ding methyl. So, alphabetical. Kinsay una, hydroxy or the methyl. The 3-methyl or the 4-hydroxy. So, 4-hydroxy, 3-methyl, butanal. Okay? Next. This is also an aldehyde. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Na ay double bond. Okay? So, dili ka mag corresponding alkane. Corresponding alkene. Unsay ang corresponding alkene? It's pentene. Iyang corresponding alkene kay na may double bond. So, yung corresponding alkene name is pentene. So, the pentene, ang pentene, change the ending E to al. Again, ang baga kayo siya sulat. Okay? So, basta ang pentene, okay, change nimo ang ending E into al. So, the same lang yapon. Change the ending E to al. So, pentenal. That is the parent. Okay? But, you have to locate the double bond. Wala nimo gilocate ang position ng aldehyde group. But, remember, the double bond, okay, as a less priority nga a functional group, di ba, we have to locate asa di ay ang double bond. Okay? So, nasa sa carbon 3. The first carbon carrying the double bond, that is the location of the double bond. That is why ang parent all in is 3-pentenal. 3-pentenal. Okay? Then from that parent chain na ay substituent at carbon 3. Kaya 3-methyl, 3-pentenal. Okay? Then you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Continue. 6. So 6 ang longest. Padayon yun ka. Hantod nga di maputol. 6 ang longest nga carbon chain for this aldehyde. So hex, di ba from hexane, 6 man. Hexane ang corresponding alkane. May kayo makita nga double bond. So hexane, okay ra Miss Lusterio. Okay? Hexanal. Okay? Hexanal. Okay? Ang parent. From that hexanal, there are substituents sa carbon 5. So 5,5-dimethyl hexanal. Okay? So please make sure nga i-apply tong mga rules, okay, in writing the name in a single word. Comma ang mag-separate sa numbers, hyphen ang mag-separate sa number and word. Okay? To make it a single word. Balag sakto pa na ang imuhang gisulat. Kung wala siya naka-single word, wrong gina. Wala ka nagamit og hyphen, comma, wrong gina siya inyuhang name, systematic name of that compound. Okay, this is an example of an aldehyde nga, ayan, dalawa yung aldehyde group. Okay? So, let's try to check. This is an aldehyde, ha? Diba? You have a carbon, double bond to oxygen. Diba? Kulang pa siya og isa ka bond. Imaginary na, no? Imaginary ang hydrogen. Skeletal manggod siya. Skeletal ang yang gi-present. Nga, structure na siya, imaginary. Hydrogen. If you try to analyze the number of bonds for this carbon, kana akong gi-encircle, gi-highlight nga, black. Diba? Tulura ang inyong gakakita ngayang bond. 1, 2, 3. So, imaginary ang hydrogen. Okay? So, that is an aldehyde. CO, then I terminal H. So, duha ka aldehyde group in one structure. So you have to use the suffix dial. Tama? Diba? You have to use the suffix, not suffix, prefix for the ending nga al. Okay, so dial. What is the corresponding alkane name? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the parent chain. So 5, pentane. Question, do we have to erase the ending E when we use this whole suffix nga dial? Yes or no? Kailangan ako i-erase ang letter E sa pentane? Yes, very good. No. Remember, kung mag-use og prefix nga di, try, for the ending for the ending name, dapat yung preceding, ang gauna sa iyang letter is a vowel. Okay? Kaya nag-start man siya sa consonant, so vowel ang una siya. So pentane, dial, pentane, dial. Wala na yung location. Kay automatic, kung kag pentane, imong imagine nun, pentane, 5 ka carbon, then dial, meaning, ang duha ka aldehyde nasa pikas tumoy, ang isa nasa pikas tumoy. Okay, so di na kamaingon og 1,5 pentane dial. So pentane dial, that is the parent name. Wala may substituent, so muna na siya iyang final name. Okay, let us proceed to the cyclic aldehydes. Okay, for the cyclic aldehydes, take note, cyclic na ha. Aldehyde gyapon na kay makita nga carbon, double bond O, then hydrogen. Meaning sa cyclic aldehyde, kaning nga group, particularly the carbonyl carbon of the aldehyde carbon, so this is the aldehyde carbon, it is directly attached to a ring. Okay, it is directly attached to a ring. Whatever ring is that, mapa-cycloalkane, cycloalkene, mapa-benzene ring, whatsoever, basta naka-ring, close chain, naka-attach siya sa ring directly, then that is considered a cyclic aldehyde. Okay? So say for example, you have a benzene ring, then naay CHO. Ako lang gisimplified, but that is the aldehyde group. Diretso, kanig yung carbon directly gid siya naka-attach sa ring. Or you have a simply cyclohexane, no? Cyclohexane, then CHO. Or you have a no? Cyclopentene. Then you have an aldehyde. So basta directly attached siya sa ring, then that is a cyclic aldehyde. So muna siya ato ang i-learn this time. Ito kaganina open chain, wala tayong makita nga cyclic compound. Now, what will happen here is you have to use this time the suffix carbaldehyde. So that will be the suffix. Okay? If you encounter a cyclic aldehyde, okay, the suffix this time is not just al. Di ba kaganina atong suffix is only al? This time, the suffix is medyo taas-taas. Carbaldehyde, meaning to say, ang aldehyde group naka-attach siya sa carbon ng mismong cyclic ring. Okay? Di ba? Carbon man iyang gi-attach siyan sa cyclic ring. Okay? So, that carbon atom of the ring to which the aldehyde carbon, to which this aldehyde carbon is directly attached to, that is always the location number 1 in naming the ring. Okay, so say for example, okay, all of these are cyclic aldehydes. If you can see, lahat ng mga cyclic molecules na siya direct attachment ng aldehyde group. Tama? So, in naming, you simply name the ring. Okay? Okay, I lost my internet. Wait, ha. I don't know why. Dali lang. Mauniron. Sige, kadali lang ha. Di na din ko ganahan magklase. Ay, naku. Sige. Sige, let's continue. Nasa man to akong bulletin. Okay. Sige, let's continue ha. Wala na ko nakita inyong answer. Sige, type in your answer. What is the name of this cyclic ring? What is the name of that cyclic ring? Without that aldehyde group, diba, that is very good. Cyclohexane. Okay? So cyclohexane, that is the corresponding name of the cyclic ring. So that is the first thing that you have to do. Name the ring. If my substituent, then identify the substituent together with the ring. Okay? Now, after naming that whole thing, simply add the suffix carbaldehyde. You don't need to erase the ending E of the corresponding cyclic name of that cyclic ring. Dili na nimo i-erase yang ending E kay ang suffix nga carbaldehyde nag-start naman siya sa consonant. 'Di ba ang atong ruling is kung nag-start sa consonant ang suffix, then iyang preceding letter should be a vowel. Since cyclohexane, benzene, cyclopentane, whatsoever the name of that cyclic ring, the end naman siya sa vowel, then no need to erase. So, for this cyclic aldehyde, the name is cyclohexane, then sumpay, carbaldehyde. That is to indicate nga you have a cyclohexane nga ring, then naa yung direct attachment nga aldehyde group. Particularly, ang aldehyde group naka-attach siya sa isang carbon, no? Isang carbon ng mismong cyclohexane. Okay? You don't need to allocate, no, asa ng nag-iisang aldehyde sa cyclic ring. Kay automatic, that is carbon 1. Diba? Sabi dito, the aldehyde carbon, okay, kung asa siya na-attach nga carbon atom on that ring, that carbon will get the location number 1. So automatic, kung yung kag-cyclohexane carbaldehyde, naa siya sa carbon 1 ng cyclohexane, naka-attach ang aldehyde group. Okay, next. This ring, diba, this is cyclohexane but with a substituent. So, ay mohang nambiran, carbon 1, 2, 3. So, when you name that cyclohexane, that is 3-methyl cyclohexane, tama? That is 3-methyl cyclohexane. But again, don't forget, this is a cyclic aldehyde, so you have to use the suffix carbaldehyde. So, 3-methyl cyclohexane, carbaldehyde. Oops, next. Another thing, this is also a cyclic aldehyde. So this is carbon 1, then carbon 2. Again, carbon 1 kung asa nga carbon naka-attach ang aldehyde group. Okay? So sa carbon 2, na ay methyl for that cyclopentane. Diba? That is cyclopentane. 5 ka carbon membered ring on that cycloalkane. Okay? So 2-methyl cyclopentane na siya with an aldehyde. So carbaldehyde, use the suffix carbaldehyde. 2-methyl cyclopentane carbaldehyde. So ang technique lang ninyo, imagine sa nga wala, no? Imagine sa nga wala si aldehyde. I-name lang yun nimo ang mismong ring with its substituent. Kung unsa inyong learning in naming that a cyclic molecule. But make sure automatic yun per may carbon 1 ang carbon kung asa ang aldehyde. So carbon 1 na siya, carbon 2, carbon 3. So pag name nimo 3 nitro, what is that ring? Tell me what is this ring? Is this cyclohexane? That is, very good, that is benzene. So meaning the name is 3-nitro, benzene, sumpay dayon, carb, aldehyde. Okay? So imo lang sa i-name ang cyclic compound. Sumpay dayon ka sa suffix nga carbaldehyde. So this is carbon 1, 2, 3. The ring, the cyclic alkane is cyclopentane. Kay lima man. Cyclopentane. Sa iyahang carbon 3 na ay duha ka bromo. So 3-3. Tagaan na tog location, di ba? Ang each substituent. So 3-3 dibromo cyclopentane carbaldehyde. 3-3 dibromo cyclopentane carb aldehyde. Okay, question. Kaning bag-o nito nga mga structure. Yes or no lang inyo i-answer ha. Is this a cyclic aldehyde? Yes or no? Are this cyclic aldehyde? Yes or no? No, very good. Ano sabi natin basta cyclic aldehyde? Ang aldehyde group, particularly katong carbon ng aldehyde, is direct yun siya mo attach sa cyclic ring. Kung imong lantawon ang benzene ring diri, wa man kay makita nga aldehyde diri. So naa pa diri ang carbon ng aldehyde group. Layo ra kayo. Therefore, this is an open chain. No, nga aldehyde. Kung giunsa niyong pag-name ang kaganina nga slides, di ba mga open chain to siya nga mga aldehyde, use the suffix al. Al ra ato ang gamiton nga suffix. Kaya di man ni sila cyclic aldehyde. Open chain ni sila nga mga aldehyde. So this would be carbon 1, carbon 2, and carbon 3. Ano sabi ko sa inyo? What will be the name of the benzene ring kung naging substituent na siya? Kapag substituent na ang benzene ring, it is termed as is it phenol? Sige. Sige. Hapit na. If a benzene ring becomes a substituent, that is termed as sige pag yun. Phenyl. Very good. Phenyl. Ayaw mo kalimot. Basta substituent na siya. Il, good siya. Ending in il. Di ba? Murag alkyl, cycloalkyl, aryl. Okay? So, phenyl. Mura nga inyong mnemonics, no? Para dali rin inyong madumduman. Benzene ring, naging substituent na siya. Phenyl. Okay? Siya yung phenyl. Okay? So, 3-phenyl propanal. 3-phenyl propanal. Okay. The second also nga structure is also an open chain aldehyde. So we will use the suffix al. So sa carbon 3, this is not benzene but a cyclohexane. Syempre dili ta mo ingon nga cyclohexane kay substituent man siya. Mahimo siya cyclo ending in il. Cyclohexyl. Kay substituent na siya. Do not forget yun ha. Basta substituent na gani siya, sanga na siya, sanga dili siya part, dili siya ang parent, mag-end yun ang substituent, ang mga branches sa il. Kaya removed with one hydrogen naman na sila. So il, ending in il. So this becomes 3-cyclohexyl. Then the parent is 3-mani-propanal. Propanal. Okay? So practice lang yun siya, practice. No problem kay open notes man gyud mo, open notes. Ang delikado kung mag face to face tapos ingani ang kuan nagsagol na bata na aldehydes nanay double bonds nanay alcohol. Good thing kuan na lang ninyo dito na lang mo mag-think sa positive side ng open notes bitaw mi i-take na lang na ninyo as positive bitaw. Okay, appreciate lang ninyo ang online na siya positive gid nga side ang online sa inyo ha as students. But I am not encouraging yun hang hala sige pag open notes mo kay sa board exam kay di biya open notes, okay, so as much as possible at least bitaw inyong isanay inyong self, pero again wala na koy kontrol na pag open mo hala sige pag open notes mo wala gid koy problema ana basta ipasar lang gyud ninyo ang akong subject, bahalag unsa pa nga mga strategy inyong gamiton, mag unsa pa ba mo mag open mo daghan kay tabs dira wala koy labot gyud basta ipasar lang gyud ninyo akong subject, okay, sige, so diri ta sa kung more than one na, okay? More than one na ang component, ang present nga aldehyde group attached sa cyclic molecule. So, unsaon man ni? Kung duha na, this time, kailangan na nato i-locate. Asa ang usa, asa ang ikaduha. Kay dili man ni siya open chain, di ba? Ang open chain kay naragyud na siya sa duha ka tumoy na ang isa sa one side and then the other side na adito ang usa ka aldehyde group. But we are talking here a cyclic, no? Cyclic aldehyde. Pwede man ni siya more than one, like pwede duha, tulo, upat ka aldehyde nga pwede nato i-attach, no, sa cyclic compound. So depende man na siya sa trip sa maestra ihatag sa inyo ha. But I will not give you more than siguro isa lang or duha. Okay? So kanira. So for this, kailangan ninyo i-locate asa ang usa ka aldehyde, asa ang ikaduha nga aldehyde. So this is carbon 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or the other way around. Okay, the other way around. Pwede kanin yung carbon 1, 2, 3, and so forth. So 1, 3. 1, 3 na ang atong position for the dicarbaldehyde. This is dicarbaldehyde ha. Kaya di ba ang suffix nga atong gamiton for cyclic aldehyde is carbaldehyde. Yes? Miss? Kisa to? Ana, tuplukan lang. Sige. So, dicarbaldehyde ang atong gamiton, no? This time. Okay. So, this is cyclohexane. Nga to lang gihapon. I-name ninyo ang ring. As if wala. As if wala pa name. As if wala na siya. Diba? That is cyclohexane. So, cyclohexane. Then, position. Asa ang duha ka asa ang duha ka aldehyde group na siya sa carbon 1 and 3. Okay? So, cyclohexane 1,3 carbaldehyde. Okay. Ayan. Cyclohexane 1,3 1,3 dicarbaldehyde. Okay? Ma'am, pwede diri rami magsulat 1, 3, then cyclohexane dicarbaldehyde. Yes, this is actually the new naming system. But the old naming system gyud, di ba? Ang position sa functional group is before gyud the whole parent name. Di ba? The parent name is cyclohexane with the suffix dicarbaldehyde. So you can have this na lang. Kaya usually kung maingon ko, i-follow gyud ang old naming system, pero ako yung gina-input ana sa Google Form is also the new naming system. Kaya naamang yung estudyante nga ganahan siya. Maybe yung nakita sa Google, pag search niya lang, new naming system yan na search mo, yung gi-input. Ako na lang pong i-consider. Okay? Sige. So this one, this is a benzene, di ba? Benzene molecule. Then, nga to gyapon 1, 2, 1, 3. No? So benzene 1, 3 dicarbaldehyde. So ano lang. Or you can have 1,3 benzene dicarbaldehyde. So don't forget ha, ang carbaldehyde suffix na siya. Suffix. Equivalent na siya sa in, sa ol, sa ein, ein. Unsa pa to atong mga topic nga mga suffixes to indicate nga mo na siya nga functional group. So ang carbaldehyde medyo taas-taas lang siya ninyo na-encounter kasi nga aldehyde is a long word, di ba? So this is applicable for cyclic nga aldehyde. Okay? So before ta mag-end, I will answer the first 3, no? First 3 ako siyang i-answer, then kamo na dayon. Ako ni siyang ibutang sa Google Form for assignment 7 para na-upload mo yung score sa ako na siyang i-record ha kanang assignment, mga assignment tarungan ninyo answer kay lecture, ako po na siyang i-record as lecture quizzes. Okay. Number 1. So all of these are aldehydes ha, aldehydes. So this would be carbon 1, obviously, carbon 2, 3, 4, and 5. So always ang carbon 1, katong carbon of an aldehyde. That is an aldehyde. Imaginary lang ang hydrogen, terminal hydrogen. Kasi cyclic man, igipakita siya as cyclic. So the equivalent, corresponding alkene name, bakit alkene name? Kaya naman kayo makita double bond. Ano na lang ka diretso. Basta makita nga aldehyde, then ay double bond, corresponding alkene name niya. And that is pentene. Change the ending E into al. So the parent is, pentanal. That is the parent. But take note, the double bond must be located asa ang iyahang position sa parent chain. So, nasa sa carbon 2. Dari na lang na ako isulat ha. So, number 1. So, you have 2 pentanal. That is the parent. Okay? 5 ka carbon sa chain. Okay? Then, sa carbon 2, na-added to ang double bond. Okay? But there is a substituent at carbon 3. So, 3-methyl dash 2-pentanal. Okay? Next, number 2. Pangitaa ang carbon bearing the aldehyde group. So, this would be carbon 1. Diba? Carbon, double bond with oxygen. So, siya yung carbon 1, 2, 3, and 4. So, butene ang corresponding alkene. Anong alkene man naman po, ma'am? Kaya naman kay double bond na nakita. Corresponding alkene is butene. Change the ending E to al. So, butenal. Butenal. Okay? Asa ang double bond nasa carbon 2. Okay? Nai-substituent? Yes, nai-substituent sa carbon 2. So, 2-methyl. That is a methyl, diba? 2-methyl dash 2-butanol. Okay, number 3. The aldehyde. Carbon, it's here. Automatic. Basta kayo makakita mo og aldehyde. Nalagyan na siya sa terminal. Ay na mo pangita sa lain sa tunga niya or sa ba. That is always, no? Nasa terminal. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then, continue. Biskan asa lang. So, pwede ka na ang 8 or katong isa. Okay, so 8 carbon chain aldehyde na ay double bond. So, octene. Iyahang corresponding alkene name. Octene, change the ending E to al. Octenal. Okay, but wala pa na nahuman. Octenal. But, you try to find out nga hala duha ka double bond. Walay problema sa aldehyde group. Okay? Kay isa raman. But proceed to the next priority nga functional group, double bond. Na ay double bond sa carbon 2, na ay double bond sa carbon 6. Remember kung double bonds, 'di ba? In ang ato ang suffix, but we have to use the prefixes, multiple prefixes kung dalawa na di-in. Okay? So, ang mahitabo, okay, from octenal, di ba? From octenal, you have to write it oct-di-in. Okay? Di ba? Di-enal. Meaning to say, duha ka double bond, di-en. Okay? Sumpayan na nako. Pero, since we're using a multiple prefix starting with a consonant, balikan na pod ang consideration nato basta magamit og prefix nga start with a consonant, dapat iyang preceding letter is a vowel. Preceding letter must be a vowel. So ibalik unsa ang root word sa oct, di ba? Octa, octane, octa. Okay? So octa dienal. Okay? Octa dienal. Asa ang duha ka double bond na sa carbon 2 and carbon 6. So that is the parent. 2,6, okay? 2,6 octadienal. That is the parent. Na substituent sa carbon 2, 3, and 7. So pagsulat nimo 2, 3, 7 trimethyl. Okay? Then sumpay 2,6 octadienal. Then the rest, okay? I will transfer this sa Google form. You try to answer this ha. This will serve as assignment 7. Okay, together with the next nato nga topic. So this will be discussed tomorrow before ta mag-start with alcohols, reactions of alcohols. Then for the remaining days, Thursday, we can start with the carboxylic acid. Gamay na lang na ang carboxylic acids. Dito lang yun mo bugbugon sa naming. Okay? Sige. So more on naming na gyud ang sa finals with the reaction. So do you have any questions?